Hello, welcome back to the studio. My name is Dan Shelley, a professional paintball photographer, and in this episode, I sit down with Houston Heat's very own Ronnie Dizon. We dive into some pretty vulnerable topics about what he went through deciding to stay with the team this offseason. He really opened up about what it meant to have some of his best friends leave to other teams, and we also talk about what the Dizon docs mean to him and what's new and coming up for his brand. This is definitely an episode that you're not going to want to miss, so let's jump right into it.
Photographer of the Year, let's hear it for Dan Shelley, Shellda Photos.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Shellda Podcast. And today, I've got one of my favorite creators, one of my favorite paintball players in the pro division, Ronnie Dizon of Dizon Docs, of Gang, of HK Army, of Houston Heat, like the list goes on. So I am super excited to have you on. Before we jump into questions, though, I do want to give a huge shout out to my two show sponsors. BFP Gear has been with me since literally day one. Junior and Gina Brown called me up like, hey, how can I help you? How can we support? And so they signed on from day one. And a few weeks ago, I actually got a care package that includes the carbon arm pads, and I've already been wearing those for the last 2 or 3 seasons. But there's nothing like getting a fresh pair of arm pads. Like the first time you put it on, it's like a fresh pair of socks, So super excited to be partnering with BFP Gear, and then of course Hormesis. Like there's nothing to say about Hormesis. They're just the go of some of the headband game, the streetwear that they have. That's the one item that if I forget it in my gear bag, I will go home and go back and get my headband. So Hormesis, thank you so much for being a sponsor. It truly means the world. All right, Ronnie Dizon, how are you, my man?
I'm doing great, man. I've had I set my alarm clock at 7 a.m. today, and then I woke up at 5, and I go, well, I have time. So I went to the gym. I got my car washed. I made the morning productive instead of sitting there in bed and scrolling, So
yeah,
once you start the day off like that, it kind of sets the tone. So, and now we're here.
Yeah, I love that. Actually, let's just jump right into that. Tell me more about that, because I've noticed you. I've been a huge fan of yours for the Dizon Docs for years.
Hell yeah.
And recently I saw the collaborations that you've had with Matt the Gym Rat, and
Yep.
I think it was maybe on your channel or his or both. You showed your day in the life, and I was blown away by how much you do in a day. So like, run me through that.
Yeah, I mean, I've always had like a big work ethic or a big appetite for work, and I think Matt's video really highlighted, a small snippet of what I do in a day. And I have days where I just, I'm a little lazier than the next, but I try to maximize those, hours that I'm awake, right?
Yeah.
By doing that, I've realized that, I could double, triple down on whatever my endeavor is. And lately, as of last year, was my personal fitness and health, and it was, I discovered there's a YouTube channel and there's a YouTuber named Nick Bear. I don't know if you've heard of him.
I actually had a BPN meal replacement this morning. That's like my breakfast is the chocolate meal replacement shake.
That's funny. I had a scoop of G1M Sport that I was gonna drink at the gym, and then I forgot it at home. So I didn't.
He's actually based out of Austin, like right in my backyard.
Yeah, you're in Texas. Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, so I watched his channel, and I realized he's highlighting the hybrid athlete, and I'm like, that's exactly what paintball players are. We, especially professional ones, we're specializing in the sport, and then we have to find a different way to condition and train. So like, I'm like, well, everything I do is based around, being able to have that muscular endurance, that muscular strength. Yeah. And so I just started training like a hybrid athlete. And I want to say a huge shout out to Steven Williams from Transfuse. Yes, he is basically was my entire year's coach for fitness and nutrition.
Wow.
And I've gone back with Steven a long time ago. He used to play paintball. He still dabbles in the sport. But he was the one who kind of set the bar for how much I should be training, and it went from training 5 days a week to 5 days a week, but twice a day,
Wow.
And he was like, just, and there were so many times, dude, that I was sitting there and I'm like, I'm exhausted, man. I don't think I could train today. And he was like, what's that movie? Is it Troy, where he goes, no, that's why no one will ever remember your name. He says that line to me all the time, and he sends me it like in a text when he knows that I'm having that second workout coming up, and it just sets the bar. So it's like, okay, well, I've worked out 8 times in 5 days, or like however many times I work out, right? 8 times, 9 times, and I just realized like it's just setting that gap farther and farther from what I used to be. And that's all I'm trying to do is just to see my full potential, and realize after this past year that there's a lot more in the tank than what I feel,
And there's something so special about that. I think a lot of people, for whatever reason, like there's a certain number, an age number in everyone's mind, and it's different for everybody. But when they creep to that, they're like, oh man, like I'm done. I've got nothing left. Like my career's over.
Yeah.
But for you, it's like, it sounded like, and if you hit that number or not, it sounded like it just completely switched your mentality.
Yep. I mean, well, that's really what it was. I had a lot of, I used to hate running, there's an example. I used to hate it.
Yeah.
And one day I was like, I'm just going to go on a jog for some cardio, And I ran like a mile and I was like, just shocked, and I'm like, man, there's no way that I should feel like this. So then I started like exploring the science of like how to build your cardio base and how to and I'm like, dude, there's so much more untapped, potential for my body and mind. And I don't care what age I am. Like, and anybody who says like, oh yeah, like I'm going to go work out, but I'm at this age and I don't know if I could do the things I used to. It's like, if you keep telling yourself that story, like of course you're never going to be able to do it, Yeah. I think it's rewriting that story. It's erasing what you know, rewriting that story, and then setting the bar yourself,
Oh man, that hits home so much for me, especially right now. My wife and I are going through like just this crazy transformation in our personal lives where, we weren't the biggest like fitness people, and like we tried to eat healthy and eat whole foods and organic. Yeah. But when it came time to like get on the bike or like jump on the rower, like that self-talk always came up with some excuse. Mm-hmm. And she actually unlocked it in me where she was like, we just have to like shut off that story that we used to tell ourselves, like that negative, hey, there's other reasons why you shouldn't do this, and just do it. Like just whatever it is. And so like that's just completely unlocked something in me to, it's a new day. I've got a new challenge and like I have to do this. And then that like 1% every day, just it leads up to something, whatever it is. Hey, podcast fam, super quick. I just wanted to say thank you so much for tuning into another episode of the Shellda Podcast. It literally means the world to me. And second, did you know that nearly 70% of you aren't actually subscribed to this YouTube channel? The easy way to show your support is just by hitting that subscribe button below. Really easy, helps me out a ton, and it would mean the world. All right, let's get back to the show.
No, I agree with that. And that's awesome that you found that. And she was able to, inspire you to, dig that deeper realm, right?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
For sure.
Awesome. Yeah.
Talk to me about, I think some people have this perception of people in the sport, that some people live this glamorous life, and not saying that you don't, but that, they play paintball 7 days a week. They get paid all this crazy money. And they don't have 9-to-5 jobs. What I've obviously learned through doing this podcast is there's varying levels of people on the professional ranks. Like I had ABJ on early on, and I think he works in pharmaceutical sales Monday through Friday, and then it's paintball on the weekends. Can you talk to us about what you would consider your full-time job is and what that Monday through Friday is?
Yeah, so I think I do live on the other end of the aspect of that 9-to-5 job, where I can't really turn it off, like, I'll give you an example. Like last night I was, I just had some like stuff for sale in terms of like my paintball equipment, and it was like 11 PM and somebody's messaging me, and like, my fiance Stella, she was like, hey, what are you doing? And I'm like, she's like, it's 11 PM. And I'm like, yeah, I just, so this guy's messaging me about stuff, and, I want to just close a deal. And, that's when this person's on their phone, and it's almost like real estate, you're just always working, you're your own agent. For me, I would consider myself a full-time professional paintball player, like athlete, but also because obviously on Heat we do have a salary,
Of course.
but also we have a that other aspect where it is that content creator, where I run my YouTube channel. I basically run my own business when it comes to like my merchandise, my equipment, and then like even like selling, leftover gear and stuff like that. Like that's the same thing as like running like an eBay, right?
Totally.
So I'm constantly, like dipping into one or the other of what I'm going to work on that day. But yeah, I think to the point of like, the 9 to 5 versus what I'm doing, I just think mine is not always cut for everyone, because I have a lot of people that they love going to their 9 to 5, and I'm cool with that. That's cool. For me, I love being able to not be bound to that and
You're your
have
own
my
boss.
creative flow. Yeah. And my own boss. Right. So I have the flexibility with that.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's Kyle Berry actually talked about that because he owns his own marketing. He didn't call it an agency, but he called it like, I think, a growth business.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he said something in there that just like it made the hair on my arm stand up. He said all of his clients, he has them on a month to month basis. And he's like, there's a reason why 6 years later, they're all still with me. And without saying it, that's giving him his own personal drive that every day I've got to wake up and I have to show up for these people in order to keep putting food on my table.
Yeah.
And so he's creating that own drive for himself.
Yeah, because then if he doesn't, then they just, okay, we'll see ya. We're not locked in. Yeah,
Exactly.
That's a good idea. I like that.
Yeah. And so it's almost like you're renewing that, hey, today I'm back to zero, or this month I'm back to zero. I got to earn it. So it's a really cool mentality. I definitely want to jump more into the Dizon docs, but before we do that, you mentioned something that I actually personally struggle with. I can't turn it off. I've got a hard time, whether it's at nighttime, it's in the morning, like I'm just thinking about the podcast all the time or my business all the time and how I can grow and scale it. And you said your recent fiance, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much.
She, said something to you at like 11 o'clock at night. How do you juggle that? Like, do you build time in your week to like turn it off so you have time for just you and her?
So, and I think this is a big struggle with, and Marcelo's brought it up too, with like, he's had to work through this with his relationships. And I think there's a lot to unwrap here. Right. And I think that the biggest thing is there, you go through seasons in your life, and I think some seasons are going to be unbalanced. And it's difficult. And for somebody to realize that and understand that there's a bigger picture, it is a level of maturity. And I think that's a huge reason why my fiance Stella and I are going to be married and be together, because she knows that there are times where I can't turn it off, and she does like ask for that balance. Right. But she does realize like everything I do is for my family, and for my future. And there is, a bigger overarching goal there. Right. Yeah. It's not like I'm just, can I swear on this?
Oh, totally. Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah, it's not like I'm just like fucking around and like, texting people and like, sending memes to each other. Like I'm trying to do things to, get every inch I could get in the sense of accomplishing things, whether that's like locking in deals to, do a brand deal or coaching or selling equipment. Like that's when it's never off. And I think that's totally healthy to have points in your life where you're unbalanced. And that's just where you are, and if some people can't accept that, then, they're not helping you and write that story that you want to write,
Yeah. Thanks for painting that picture. That makes total sense. I think, being a creator or a creative, it's a completely different way your mind works, and it's hard to shut it off.
No, yeah, it is. And I can't fault it. I just have to.
That's who you are.
Yeah, dude, you gotta flex it. You gotta flex that muscle and continue to be who you are and be unapologetic,
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that and going into that vulnerability. I think a lot of people will resonate with that listening to this.
Well, I'll say this too. I do set time blocks aside where it's unwavering attention to her, like where we have like, we have our blocks at night around like 7 to like 9, where it's like, okay, these are 2 or 3 hours of us get to hang out, relax, watch TV, chill, and then we'll have like a day throughout the week where we'll have like a date night. I think lately we haven't, because we've been doing this no spend January thing where we just like minimize, eating out and doing stuff like that. But yeah, like usually throughout the year, I do make sure that we have that time together, because that's important.
Yeah, and it's so healthy. It's something that I've recently had to learn in the past year or so for myself, is because I was the same way. Like I was 24/7 just thinking about this all the time. And I noticed that I wasn't showing up in my relationship. And so we started to, block out time here and there and have like date nights and making sure we're spending time together each week. And by doing that, initially I felt like just so antsy and anxious, like, oh, I'm missing something. But it eventually got to a point where like, no, I need this. Like I need this time and I crave it. That personal time with my wife. Yeah. And I found that now makes me show up to my business even more fueled when I get there.
That's inspirational. That's awesome.
Yeah. Talk to me more about the Dizon docs. Like I love the name behind it. I love the energy with it. It's something I crave every time you post it.
Hell yeah. So the Dizon docs, the name came from, there's this YouTuber, his name is Justin Escalona, and he was a college kid who would do this series called The Daily Docs. And he would basically vlog his life in college, like them partying, them going to like games, them like doing photo shoots. And he would put this cinematic twist to it, because he was, I don't know if he specialized or like that was what he was, in school for. Yeah. But he would like, it would be a vlog where it's like, oh, this is not just like some kid like with a GoPro. Like he had like what's the Canon camera? The
7DD or
no, the 1DX.
Oh yeah. Like the vlogging camera that everybody had for a while.
Yeah, but he had like the full setup. I'm like, this guy's walking around with this, giant camera, right? And like Casey Neistat would do, right? Yeah. But like he would do it in a way where it'd be like he'd kick into these cinematic roles of like him just eating a piece of sushi, with some rap music or something. And then it'd be him like partying, and then it'd be him working out. Like, I'm like, that's cool. Like, and we travel the world playing paintball, so why can't I do that with my stuff, right? And I think a combination of him and then Casey Neistat, and then when Jake Paul was a vlogger every day, like I would take all these bits and pieces from these, these YouTube channels, and I would just throw it in a pot and then mix it up, and then there's the Dizon docs, right? And it would just be these glimpses and blips of all these successful YouTubers, and it just gave me that flow and that inspiration. Like, okay, cool, I could do this comedic thing here, the cinematic thing here. And I think that's where it sits. And then as far as like the vlogs, like I just want to be able to document and look back at this when I'm older and go, damn, we did some cool stuff. I'll have times where I'll binge watch a few of my old vlogs and be like, oh, I forgot about that. Or, and these next few that are coming out are more of like the day in the life of me. And like, I did it in December where, I vlogged the first week. And then the second week, we went to Japan and Korea, and I proposed. So like I have like the whole 2 weeks broken up in the 2 vlogs that I'm finishing up that I think is cool to show that aspect. And when I look back at it, I'll be able to watch that with my wife and my kids or my, my grandparents. And it's cool, and
there's just something so special about being a vlogger or sharing that aspect of your life. Cause I think it's the modern day version of, like a photo album, like a lot of our families will have bins of all these pictures when we were kids, and like, but now we can relive exact moments, the sounds, what it was like, capturing emotions. And there's just nothing like experiencing like what you're doing. It's going back and looking at those things.
Yeah. So 2 things that you hit the nail on the head, the photo album analogy. Like my parents have, and maybe this is where I got it from, they have bins of home videos. Like my family was the family where when the camera came out,
over the shoulder.
They were at the parties with this thing, right? Yeah. And people were judging them and people were looking at them. And it's like, it's funny because when I fast forward when I first started vlogging on the team, the amount of bullshit I got from some teammates, but as well as like everyone, they were just like, all right, chill out with the camera, dude. You always got this camera around, And then it's like, no, dude, like this is no difference than you having photo albums, Yeah. This is no difference than my parents having those home videos, And it's huge. And I think what you just said was awesome. And it I don't want to say it amplifies what I'm really about, you know?
Totally. And it sounds like the theme of what you're trying to say is you're just trying to capture memories. You're trying to capture things to give to your kids and people that are going to come after you. In a way, our parents and grandparents were like the OG vloggers without knowing it. It's kind of cool to think about that.
No, it's awesome. It's incredible.
Yeah. Talk to me about, because I think this question, is going to help so many people that want to become content creators. Because I think there's such a struggle where it's that self-talk of like, well, man, if I point this camera on somebody, like I'm going to get judged, they're going to make fun of me. And it sounds like you went through that. How do you overcome that? And how would you tell somebody else to like overcome that?
Okay. So that's a good point, because I think I still go through it, you know, like if I haven't been vlogging for a few weeks or months or something, you know, like say I just haven't, like last year, I didn't really vlog as much as I wanted to, you know? And then I whip out the camera in public at an airport and talk to it. I get that overwhelming shit. Somebody's going to hear me talking to this camera and they're going to look over and think I'm weird. You know, like I get that feeling all the time. You want to know how I think the two ways to go past it and overcome that fear of getting in front of it? Number one, nobody really cares. They really don't. Because anytime I've seen somebody vlogging, I'll look over, I'll smile, or I'll look over, I'll listen a little bit, and then I'll go back to what I was doing, you know? Because most people, 80% of people are in their own head, thinking about how they look, you know?
Exactly.
So that's that. Number two is it's getting into that flow state of doing it more often. Because the more you do it, the more you're able to be more out of your head and into the moment, you know? And that in turn makes you present. And then now you don't worry about anything else. Nothing really matters, you know? And I think that comes with anything. Like if you struggle to just talk to people and strangers, my advice would be to go talk to more people and strangers, you know, until it's less of an anxiety, you know? So same thing for vlogging, same thing for working out. Like you just do more of it, you know, and push past every single time. And then it'll start to make sense. Because if other people can do it, you can do it. You know? Yeah,
that's thank you for sharing. I think you just shared some absolute gold for people. And some of the pieces that I've seen other content creators struggle with, same thing with walking through an airport that's crazy crowded and you're shoulder to shoulder with people. There's been a lot of other creators who said, you know what, throw AirPods in, throw headphones on. That way it looks like you're talking to somebody else or something. Sure. And then that also makes you feel like, hey, it doesn't matter. Like I can't hear anything else that's going on. That's kind of a cool tip to help people that are starting out.
No, yeah. I mean, I think that thinking about, who said it? Alex Hormozy. Do you know who that is?
Yeah. Kyle talked about him last week.
Yeah. So he said something cool. Thinking about the thing. I'm going to butcher this, but it's like thinking about the thing isn't doing the thing, you know, planning about the thing isn't doing the thing, dreaming about the thing isn't doing the thing the thing is doing the thing.
Yeah.
You know, so I have a lot of people that are like, yeah, it'd be cool to start a vlog, you know, and then they're like, oh no, my vlogs would have this, you know, and they'd be like, yo, it'd be awesome to imagine like the growth I would, you know, all this stuff, all these ideas. And I'm like, how about you just go do like the one thing you keep talking about?
Yeah,
know?
Exactly.
Or when people say like, yeah, you know, one day I'm going to be there, you know, it's hard. It's like, no, just talk about like you're already there and almost as if you already wield it.
Yeah.
And you'll start following, the actions will follow, right? So I think a lot of people neglect starting content or a podcast or something like that, when really the answer is just do it and then do it 100 times. And now you have data to be like, okay, episodes 10 through 5 or at 50 are like, those were good. Like, what did I do good in those, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Zizek said the exact same thing with his brand, and he called it analysis paralysis. He's like, we analyze so much that we ended up paralyzing ourselves from doing it.
Yeah. You want to be certain. That's what you need. You want certainty. The human brain wants certainty before you do something. Like, you know, it's like skydiving. It's like, well, maybe if you did it, you'd have a great experience, you know?
Yeah, we just get so caught up in the fear of failure and judgment of what other people think. And I still struggle with that to this day. I've been doing a lot of journaling lately, and it's just like unlocked a whole different part of my brain. And I didn't realize that how much I was worried about what everyone else thought of me, not even like doing paintball or anything else. It's just in general. And where it kind of clicked with me, Hormesis gifted me one of their denim jackets recently, and it's got like the cruxes all over it and whatnot.
Yep.
And I love it. But for some reason, when I thought about like wearing that to work, I just had this like, no way. Like I'm going to get judged so hard from people.
Yeah.
And thank goodness Amanda was like, you just got to do it. Like it's who you are, like lean into that. And it's like, I walked in and like, I'm wearing it. I'm looking at everybody to see like, all right, I'm waiting for the comments. No one said a word, obviously. And then luckily one person said, hey, you know what? I love that jacket. Like what is it? And I was like, oh my gosh, it happened. It's cool.
Boom.
So it just completely unlocked all of it for me.
Dude, I had that feeling in high school when I wore skinny jeans for the first time.
Yeah.
You know, you're this person that everybody builds this picture of, and then they look at Dan, they go, yeah, that's just Dan. That's just Dan. And then one day he shows up in this jacket, or Ronnie shows up in these skinny jeans, and they're either going to be a fan or they're going to be, you know, in high school, the skinny jean thing was like, why are you wearing those tight jeans? You know?
Yeah.
Like, and then you give it like a year, everyone wears them. You know?
Yeah. You started the trend without even knowing it, you know?
Exactly. You know, I'll be honest, I'm going to coin it. I think I was one of the first people to start the jogger trend in paintball. I don't care what anybody says. I think I was, and I'm also going to coin it. I think I'm going to stop it.
I like going back to baggy?
Not full baggy, but I think we're going to go a little baggier than skinny. I think it's overplayed now. I think it is. That's my hot take. I think everyone in the world wears skinny jogger paintball pants now, and I think it's time to switch it up. So I'm gonna attempt to. I don't know if it'll be successful, but
Ronnie, the trendsetter, you heard it here first. I think it's anything though, right? Like specifically with joggers, if you just look at jeans, like you were just talking about, every few years we go through. Skinny jeans are back, baggy jeans are back, the low rise is back, and then it goes away. And then like these fads just keep recycling over and over again. And it just takes somebody to want to bring something back. And so it sounds like you're going to start that trend. So all the paintball companies, HK Army, listen to this.
We'll see. I'm going to be the first to do it. And if it sucks, then you could reference this podcast.
Yeah, we'll delete this part out in like a year or two. Yeah. Talk to me, speaking of HK Army, when I see different brands working like with players or even teams, I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like that relationship just doesn't seem right. Sure. But for you with HK, I was like, yes, like it completely makes sense. You know, the energy that Mark brings to the brand, the energy that you have, like it's just two perfect worlds colliding into one. Talk to me about that relationship that you have.
God, I mean, the one thing I'll say about them is they're always on it, you know, like they're always releasing something, you know, they always got something new cooking. And having that relationship, I know I had that relationship outside of being sponsored by them for a while. You know, there was always a thing where it was like, you know, when I was a kid, like, oh, maybe I can go over and ask Marky for a hoodie or something, you know?
Yeah.
And they were always awesome friends, right? And then when we finally got sponsored with them in 2000, I don't want to mess the year up. It might have been 2018.
Wow.
To be able to go to the warehouse, experience them. And then I think the big thing is Marky and the brand kind of aligned with what I like, you know?
Yeah.
And they've taken a lot of, a lot of my ideas into consideration when it comes to certain products.
Oh, cool.
Especially like my signature series line, you know, like for them to be able to like give me the reins and creative outlet to express my stuff. It's just an awesome recipe for some cool stuff, you know, and I really appreciate those guys over there and, how straight up they've been in terms of, making sure that everything is flowing smoothly. I mean, for example, they got me their new Shredder Lux, they overnighted this to me so I can make some content with it. And I was really excited to be able to just, like talk to them and be like, hey, I would love to shoot videos with it and be able to show how dope it is. You guys have new colorways coming out, and we ended up working something out. So it's like they're just always have been supportive in the sense of making sure that we have a equal partnership in that regard.
Yeah, and you could see it. Like I can tell, you can tell by people's content if they believe in a brand and they're passionate about it. And the passion's the first thing that has to show through. And whenever you're posting content from HK or about HK that either you've worked on or you've done yourself, like you just see the passion in you that you believe in the brand. And likewise, when they post your stuff too. And yeah, I love the partnership that you guys have, because I think it was it last season or maybe 2 seasons ago when you came out with that double headband. I was like, that is
with the print on the top.
Yeah, I was like, that's sick. That's something that like I haven't seen either in a long time or before, and it just made sense for you too.
Yeah, I mean, so I have another guy who's going to remain nameless that he does some. He has his own small company in the paintball industry, but he's a firefighter. I think he's in the firefighting. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sorry if I butcher this, but anyway, he full time has a job, but then he does some stuff on the side. And I had him make me some samples. And we were going through some ideas, and I'm like, like this is great. Like, I'm gonna use this as a signature series thing. And he's like, yeah, totally cool. And when the top print headband came out, like there were people who said that people have already done it. And I don't know where or when, like maybe I missed it, So if people think I bit off another style, like I'd love to see the headband and everything. Like I'm not saying I'm taking full credit for that, but it made sense in my idea. Like I'm like, every time I put a goggle on, like the print's going to sit up here. You got to see it, you know? And like usually there's big things here, and then you don't see it because your foam and your goggles. And it's like, so it made sense to me in like the most practical regard, but yeah, I mean, there's always going to be people who, they're going to hate, or they're going to think that their ideas are stolen, but everything's a copy of a copy of a copy, like you're never the original.
Yeah. There's a book out there, and it's pretty well known at this point. I think it's called Steal Like an Artist. And it goes into talk about that there's really no idea that's now like a true original idea.
Yeah.
And you kind of touched on this earlier when you were talking about how you take different pieces of like the Casey Neistats of the world, and you're building your own brand by inspiration from other people. And so you're not really stealing an idea. You're just getting inspired by something else that you've seen and a few other things that you've seen.
Yeah. I think when people get salty about that, it's because they didn't do it first.
Exactly. It's jealousy.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that there's enough for everybody to eat. Like when people say like, I want to start a vlog, but I don't want to step on your toes. And I'm like, I want you to succeed. What do you need?
Yeah.
Do you need to borrow a camera? Like, what do you need from me? How can I help you win? I think there's enough for everybody to win, and for anybody to be like, oh, they stole our idea. I'm like, well, no shit. Everyone's going to steal everyone's idea. So just be better at it. I don't know what to tell you,
Yeah. But by you doing it, you're going to improve my game, because I'm going to have to step up my game now that I've got competition, like that's it, man. People don't understand that.
No, I think that's just the selfish nature though,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
One of the things that I would love to see more of, and I think we've seen like waves of it here and there, where Ryan Greenspan had his vlogs a while back, like documenting his travels with the little GoPro. You obviously are crushing it. Matt the Gym Rat's crushing it. And I think there's a few others. How can we get more, not even just pros, just paintball players documenting their life and journey?
See, I think that's I've covered this topic, I feel like, in other podcasts, and I've told, people to, document this. People want to see it, but I really don't think we could preach it from the top of the mountain, but people got to help themselves, and they're going to have to want to do it themselves, Sure. So I think if you want to do it, you'll do it. If you don't want to do it, like, I'm going to encourage you to do it, but like, I can't force people to do it. I just think that the upside of it is more for the growth of the sport than the downside, And I think with the short form content that we have on Instagram, I think it's easy now more than ever,
Totally.
to just film you at the field and then you working out and then maybe you having a meal. Like, I mean, you could film your day and you do it already probably,
Yeah. Yeah.
like,
and especially with the tools that Instagram and YouTube has now, where you just dump the clips in and there's a template that will mash it up for you already.
it's easier than ever to make content.
Yeah.
And I think that we are seeing more people make content.
Yeah.
But I think people are now in that comparison imposter syndrome where well, if I don't have a camera, like a nice camera, I don't want to post it because it's not good enough,
Yeah.
But it's like, I bet if you took your iPhone right now, it's better than most cameras that we started vlogging with,
Yeah.
And then if you just double down on that, I mean, it's so convenient.
Yeah.
It's so convenient. You could just film something. I'm not going to judge the quality. I'm going to watch it.
Yeah. Because you believe in the person.
Yeah, dude. I want to watch what some of these pro players do throughout a day. And maybe they don't want to show that.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't. Maybe they want to keep that to themselves. That's cool.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, there's a lot of people that probably want to see it.
It's so true. The power of the phones that we have with us are just unreal nowadays. I think I was talking with Junior Brown at some point last year, BFP gear, and they do a lot of obviously product shots like a lot of these companies do to feature whatever new product has dropped. And they have, what is it called? Like a Lazy Susan, like the table that kind of spins around where they have the product. They've got some lighting in there. I was like, man, that looks like legit. He's like, yeah, I just use my iPhone. I was like, holy cow, it looks like it's studio quality. So
yeah, I can't. I mean, if you have one of the newer phones in the last 5 years, your phone's good enough.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the one thing that people do mess up on is audio, though.
Oh, totally.
I think you could invest in a little mic or something on Amazon to make your videos sound a little bit better if you're a content creator. I think that's a big one. And that's something I struggled with for a while until I was like, I got to spend some money on audio.
Yeah.
I think I did good off the rip. I used that Rode Video Micro for a while.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that took care of so much, right? But yeah, as technology's going, I think audio is a big one.
Yeah, that's actually Verbal was talking to me about that a few days ago because obviously he's got camera equipment out the ears, but he was like, audio is still the thing that scares me. He's like, I just can't figure it out. And he had whatever incredible microphone that he has when he was on the show, and he was like, I could literally have kids screaming outside my door, but the noise cancellation is so good that you won't even hear it. But what we learned is he didn't have like a mixer or whatever the preamp is to pump up that sound. And so here's somebody who's got 650,000 subscribers on YouTube and he's still learning. It's crazy.
Exactly. Yeah.
It
is. Yeah, it is pretty crazy. So
yeah,
I think there is a diminishing return when you get to a certain point in terms of your equipment.
Yeah.
But I mean, dude, just the phones are great right now.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, let's go a little deeper. Obviously, this has been one of the craziest off seasons I think we've ever seen, or at least in the top one or two. And I think there was a lot of rumblings when people were leaving Heat, going here and there. A lot of people were saying, "Hey, Ronnie's going to go to Aftershock. You're in Chicago. It makes sense."
Yeah. It's funny when I saw Ronnie going to Aftershock, I was sitting on my couch petting my dog. And I didn't move for a few hours. And then I came out and I go, I haven't talked to anybody in the last 24 hours. Yeah. And I've just been sitting here with my dog and I looked at my dog. I'm like,
did you tell somebody?
Are you talking to people? I'm like, what is going on? So I messaged, I think it was Will Ball for Soup too, right?
Yeah.
I messaged him. I go, I don't know where you got that from, but this is me and my dog. I think it's, just me sitting with my dog. I haven't done anything. And all of a sudden I'm going to Aftershock, so I don't believe it until it's guaranteed,
Sure.
Right. But yeah, go ahead. Continue. I'm sorry. I just wanted to.
No, thanks for sharing that. Cause when you were sharing that would have been a great meme of just a picture of your dog with a chat bubble. Hey, Ronnie's going to Aftershock.
Yeah. With a phone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Potato. Yeah.
Yeah. But I want to know what goes through your mind when it comes to every off season, when you decide, hey, I'm either staying with a team or I'm leaving a team. Obviously you've been with Heat now with what seems like forever. So talk to me about that mindset every year.
Yeah, I mean, I've the family I have on Heat is something that I've been a part of since the beginning of my pro career, and it goes beyond that before, the pro career, right? So the first time that I was not on Heat was not by my choice, but in a way it was, right? Like I was young and I was a little immature, and I wasn't, I wasn't ready to be like an adult,
Yeah.
and that's when they released me the first time, and honestly, I kind of wrote them off. I'm like, well, I'm just never going to play on that team again, And then I grew as a person and as a player, and 2 years later, and then I came back, and we made some history, right? So It was awesome, and I think it's been so long since that, right? That I've been on the team for a while, and I don't really see myself leaving in that sense because of the relationships I have here.
Yeah.
But this offseason particularly was a definitely a wild one, because, we have, just talking about our team, Tyler and Connor, they join their organizations and leave. Fedorov was released,
Yeah.
and then it put me in a bubble because I get offers, they come in every year or so, right?
Sure.
And this year was maybe a year where I had more offers than usual, and I think that's the current state of like the wild, wild west of paintball, and not being so locked into certain contracts or whatever it is with certain teams. And when the chess pieces started moving and opportunities were presented, like I guess as a player, you earn that right to explore what those options are. Not saying you go leave, right? And for me, I was like, I need to see the direction of our team and see where we're headed, And for me, it is a lot of pressure. It's a lot of stress, right? Because being my full-time thing, I want to be able to continue to do this to the fullest and be with an organization that will allow that, right?
Yeah.
And Heat allows me to do that, and they also respect what I do, So when the whole Blast Camp selling their spot, and then the opportunity when those kids from Blast Camp, were to connect with us, it makes sense because I play with those Blast Camp kids every weekend, whether I'm against them or with them. And every single one of those players I've watched grow up from a Division 4 player to where they are now. Like, they have been around in my bubble since the first iteration of when I was on Heat to the second, to when I was on Aftershock, all this, right? And to be able to train with Jackson, Cody, and Soap, and then bring them into my world with the Heat guys, it just makes a lot of sense, And I would regret if I did take another offer and go somewhere else and never explore what that could have been,
It's a full circle moment. It sounds like, there's, I think we're seeing this trend without knowing it at first of pro teams are all about now the pockets of like what people are around us instead of, there's obviously a few teams here that are still paying for people to fly everywhere, but it seems like the trend is let's get players that are close to us so we can gel, practice a lot more, be around each other. And that's just like an intangible. You can't replace that off the field.
Yeah, you can't. And that's why Heat has been so, like, Heat's not structured to be like that. It's hard.
Yeah.
Because we all live everywhere, We can't be a paintball fit because paintball fit live together. That's I think that's paintball fit's requirement. You have to live in Texas.
Yep.
So if that's the requirement, our team is we had a team in Russia. So it's very difficult for us to be that team. So it's on us to be responsible to be able to, be your best when we show up for these practices. And I've always believed that from the bottom of my heart, right? You go to the field with intention to be the best you can be. And when you show up to those practices, you're ready, and there's been players who didn't play on Blast Camp, and I gave them this advice. They would go to a different pro team. I'm not saying names. They go to a different pro team, and then they realize they're getting worse as a player, or they're not getting much play time on those teams. And it's like, this is the difference. When you were on that local team, you got to play every weekend with those guys.
Yeah.
Now that you're not on that local team and you're doing what I'm doing, essentially, you need to do the extra work, right? Like, you actually have to go to the field during the week and put in some extra time. You know, you got to spread the gap between you and the players who get to play every weekend, you know, because you miss out on that. Right. So, and if you're not on a team that has the ability to allow you to do that with, whether it's salary or some sort of compensation, like, it's difficult to justify it because you need to go work a 9 to 5 or you need to go work a job. Right. So, there's a lot to unfold there. And it's, I just think that, the situation I'm in, I can't say I've been more excited about, the team in a long time, and I think change is good.
I totally agree with you. And I definitely want to unpack a few pieces of that. But I think before we do that, Alex Ragey said this, I don't know, a month or two ago at this point now, where he was like, yeah, these off-season moves are great. The Marcelos, the Mikeys, whatever. But he's like, the real stories, like the ones that we need to like really focus on, are the people that are staying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's something about that of like, I get these enticing offers, but I'm choosing family over that.
Right. Like Randy Smith, Mama D, Ryan Smith, Ryan Moorhead, Sam, Mishka. I'm naming the team, Chad George.
Yeah.
Who am I missing? Yeah. These guys, and Sam, I think I said Sam. Yep. Like, these guys are guys that I've grown up with my entire career.
They're your second family.
Exactly. These are the guys that I'm so excited to see when I go play, and go to practice and share memories with. Me and Ryan Smith have been through every single tournament win together for the most part, I think it's every single one, even in the divisionals. And the one thing that our coach Ryan always harps on, and Pat McKenna, shout out to Pat. Love you, Pat. Yeah. The one thing that Sarge or Ryan always harps on is just be a good teammate, be there for the guy next to you. And like, that drives me to want to be better for the next guy, and be a good teammate off the field and support them as much as I can, and, I love these guys from the bottom of my heart, and it's hard. It'd be hard to leave, Yeah. It'd be hard to leave.
Yeah. I think the fascinating thing, like, you're obviously a professional athlete and you're in the 1% of, paintball players as a whole, and you're in the 0.00 whatever percent of just the world of people who have a professional sport for a living.
Yeah.
What I always equate it to whenever I hear these off-season moves and like people are, whether they're excited or whatnot, I always think about people like you, because I think for the majority of us who have, we'll call it regular full-time jobs, it's always been told that you see your coworkers sometimes more than your family. And if you're at a job with coworkers that you've had for years and then somebody retires or they leave or they get fired, all of a sudden a part of you is like, wait, now what? Like, I would go to lunch with this person every day. Now what do I do? Mm-hmm. And so obviously when Tyler left and all these folks left, like, it's been well documented through your Dizon docs that like those were your people. So like, what was that process like for you when your essentially friends and some family members were leaving?
So I'll break down them one by one, right? The Tyler thing, he decided to leave the team. I know he had some offers and then he chose the Impact one. And when Tyler called me, and he was very upset, like, that's not easy. We built I think Tyler, I consider one of my close friends off the paintball field because of the memories that we've shared together, but also, he has another story that he's excited to write himself with those guys that he also has as friends growing up,
Yeah.
And he's got his other personal reasons. And my thing is this: I told Tyler, you know what, like, this is great. I'm excited for you. And if anybody else isn't, then they really weren't there for you. Right. And I told him, go do what's going to make you happy. Right. And I'll be happy because you're happy, mm-hmm. and I don't want you to think that I'll be upset, because, he's been in the game for a long time, and he's been, he was with the team for quite some time, and his ability to, open a new chapter was there. and he saw it and he took it, and I can't fault him,
Yeah.
I told him, I'll root for him, I'll be a silent cheerleader, and I told him straight up, as long as we can continue to be friends, and I'll call you and bullshit with you, like, I'm cool with that,
Yeah.
And I think every relationship is different, right? Because I think there's always a time for change, but it's always a different angle. And I guess I haven't really talked to anybody about this except my peers or put it public, right? So this is, you heard it here first.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I honestly, like, before you keep going, the vulnerability that you and other guests dive into, like, it's what people crave, is that connection. So thank you.
Yeah. So, that's what I told Tyler. I'm like, dude, go do the damn thing. I'm excited until we play you, and then I'm more excited. Right. Yeah. And then with Connor, he had some decisions he had to make. And I think Connor is different than Tyler because Connor was a young and up and coming player. And I think this last year, I really, really got close with him. Like it's funny. I open up my Instagram DMs and it's like 4 years back. It's a message from Connor saying like, dude, I love the vlogs, dude. I really, really love what you're doing.
Oh, wow.
And he wasn't a pro player,
Wow.
And the next thing you know, he's on ML Kings. The next thing you know, like, he's on our team and now he's one of my teammates. So like, I wanted to do what Fedorov did to me when I came to the team was, put pressure on him and make him a better player and be a little bit harder on him, but also do it for the greater good to make him, tougher and also like become, I don't want to say mentor because I don't want to have like an ego, right? But like, I wanted to be a mentor to him and help him be the best player he could be, because it'll make me the best player that I could be because I'm helping the guy next to me, right?
Yeah.
And I think Connor's at that sponge stage of his career where he's young, he's got a lot to learn. He's going to continue learning. And I obviously, like I told him, I'm like, it'd be cool if he stayed, but again, you have your own goals and this is the decision you want to make. This is the decision you want to make. Right. I think I think getting hung up about any of these is only going to cause me more stress,
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah,
keep going.
Like that in that regard, like that was a different angle than the Tyler one because of the relationship dynamic. Right. And then it goes back to the Fedorov thing. I think the Fedorov thing was, an executive decision. The team parted ways with him for their reasons. And I'm excited to see the spark that this lights under Fedorov. I think the last 5 years of his career with Heat, we haven't had much success, with the exception of like one event, like 2021 was the last time he won and he went off,
Yeah.
But like Fedorov was always been known to be a Hall of Fame elite athlete in our sport. And I think that he, wasn't producing as much as he has in the past because the bar for him is here. Right. So anything under it is going to be, like, oh no, it's not this, it's not what I know he's capable of. So I think this might light a fire under him and he's going to play well with the Tauntauns and, help them be a very good team. And I think I'm excited. As a fan, I'm excited to see that happen,
Yeah.
And as a competitor, I'm excited to experience what new potentials he unlocks. And for me, it's just going to elevate my game. It's like, all right, he's coming.
Yeah.
He's probably not going to be happy. He's coming. But I reached out to him. I'm like, if you need to talk, I'm your boy. He helped me move out of my place one time after Chicago. He's like, hey, I'll stay after and hand by hand pick up like furniture and shit and help me move.
Wow.
And then I let him stay with me. We did a clinic and like, I've had a lot of memories with him. He was my roommate for so many years. So like, it's going to be weird and a bit sad to not have him around, but I think it was time to go our separate ways in terms of the team organization and him, and I think again, change is good. It helps rewire the brain. Any breakup is going to help rewire your brain to be, a better person, a better athlete, a better player in this game. And, hopefully it evolves for the better, right? Because some people hold grudges and then, it gets nasty.
Yeah, but that's the people that do, though, they're holding themselves back, right? Like anytime a new door closes, if you look at it like, hey, here's a fresh opportunity, the normal may be different, but like you're now stepping into a room with just unlocked potential. Who knows what it's going to be? Mm-hmm. I think some of those phone calls that like these players have to make, to you, like Tyler calling you. I don't think fans in the sport understand the weight of those phone calls. Like those are things that just keep people up for days and weeks, and it just creates for some people crippling anxiety of like, I have to call Ronnie and tell him before any of this breaks. And so I just don't envy anybody that has to go through that. I say that though, the flip side of that is you've got somebody like you who just completely supports the decision, and it's a breath of fresh air for these people when they hear you say, hey, you know what, are you happy, is this what you want? Cool, I support you.
Well, that's really it, right? Like, I'll give my reasons why it's cool for them to stay, and I'll support them with their decision if they want to make that decision, But like, really, truthfully, like, who am I to tell you how to live your life,
Yeah.
You're going to be happy if you live it the way you want to live it. So live it the way you want to live it, and I'll be there, And if I don't like you, then I just won't be there, right?
Yeah.
But I don't want it to make it seem like I wasn't sad that Tyler left or sad that Connor left. Like those guys are my friends, I'm not going to see them around, and I shared a lot of memories with them. But at the same time, when it comes to their personal decisions, they make their decisions,
Yeah, everyone's their own individual, and they have a story they want to write.
That's it. So go write yours. I'll write mine.
Exactly. Speaking of writing stories and relationships, I had your good friend Matt the Gym Rat on recently.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people have heard it, but like he talked about the first interaction with you, or I think he met you at some restaurant or something at an event, and you had just come off like an event not playing, and he looked up to you of like, oh my God, that's Ronnie. Like, I'm gonna go say hi to him.
Yeah. And
that first interaction was just, it wasn't what he was expecting, as you had just went through like one of the worst weekends, I think, for you personally. Talk to me about that, because you've got so many fans in the game where when they see you, it's just like, oh, that's the guy. Yeah. Like, how do I approach him? I want to talk to him. So like, tell me about what you go through with those type of relationships.
Well, I mean, I think the Matt one was a good particular one, and shout out to Matt. He's doing great things in the sport, and for him to come out here and then spend time with me, like I had a great time learning about him. And then when he brought up that interaction, I was like, ooh. And that was a weekend where I as a human, it was 2019, I think. I just didn't get much play time. And as a human, like there was a part of me that I was like, fuck man, I want to play, like we play this sport to play. I want to play, but at the same time I had to put my ego aside and let the team do its thing. And then we won, so ultimately the goal was achieved. But obviously, personally, I was like, "Fuck, man, I want to play."
Yeah.
Like, you're just happier when you get that experience. So I think when I may have ran into him, it might have been after a long day of being at the field, and as a human, like you can't force the emotion sometimes, So if he just catches you at a bad time, it is what it is, right? And this is why I think a lot of I'm not comparing myself, but if you look at the celebrity complex versus, fans, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you were to go up to, like look at TMZ, they have so many clips of like celebrities freaking out at paparazzi and shit like that, right? Yeah. And I'm not saying that Matt was paparazzi, but it just may have been one of those moments where you're just like, I'm not in the mood to socialize,
Mm-hmm.
And Matt actually told me he had a similar experience in Texas, where he didn't get that much playtime or something like that.
Yeah.
And a fan came up to him and he kind of shrugged him off, right?
Yeah.
But it's just realizing that we're all human, So I'll say 85% of the time I will be the best I can be to a person who takes inspiration from my content or my play style, or my message. And there's just those times where I just won't. And that's okay, And that's okay because we're all human. And I think that's that. I mean, I think that answers the question, right?
100%. It does. Thank you for sharing that, because I think I'm one of the forms of content that I consume the most is YouTube, and you said him earlier. Casey Neistat has been like such an inspiration for me, and I equate his vlogs and his videos to literally changing my life. Mm-hmm. So much so that like I've got a neon sign up there that says "Do More," like what he has. Nice. I have a tattoo on my arm that says "Do More" in the same font. So like this person literally changed my life. And I say all this because as consumers of content and somebody that follows YouTubers, it almost feels like, and I've experienced this from other people, that you become friends with these creators and they don't even know who you are because you get such a look inside of their life, right? Where like you start to learn their characters, you start to learn their family members, their wives, their kids, their dogs. And so to tie it all back to paintball, when somebody sees you on an event, they're like, they know everything about you. And like, oh, Ronnie, like you're this, and this. And you're like, wait a minute, I don't even know who you are.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what that experience is for you.
I mean, that's the risk you take with sharing your life to the world, you know?
Yeah.
Like I personally think like if people don't like that, then don't share, don't do it. And that goes back to the pro player who doesn't want to make content. Like you can limit, you show what you share, right? But you know, I mean, like I have no shame showing the things I do and the people I'm with, you know? Yeah, it is definitely eye-opening where it's like, oh, you know a lot about me. You know? And you'll get like a super fan that knows like, you know, your mom's last name and your maiden name and shit like that, right? But it's like, so far in the paintball industry, I've had great, incredible people come up to me. And all I could do is just try to be the most authentic version of myself, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's only right to be whatever I'm feeling at that time, you know? Yes. I think it's hard sometimes to put on that face that the YouTube sees all the time. And I had Yaya tell me like one time a guy said, yeah, I tried to talk to Ronnie at World Cup and, you know, he just ran right past me, you know? He just gave me like a salute and that's it. And he goes, do you have headphones in? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, maybe he was warming up for a match. And he was like, well, yeah, I just, you know, I thought that was real shitty. And then I was like, yeah. And then I was like, you ever realize that when we warm up and like are going into kill mode, like we can't, like we're tunnel vision, you know? Yeah. Like, so maybe that, you know, and that's unfortunate that they experienced that and that was their experience. But at the same time, we are human and we have our own, you know, wants and needs. So to the best of my ability, I will always try to be the best I can to somebody who comes up to me. But I do want to reiterate, you know, we're all human, you know?
Totally.
And that goes to the reverse of there's people who are like, oh, I saw you, but I didn't want to bother you. And it's like, it's not bothering me. It really isn't, you know? But if the timing of you, when you come up, rolling the dice happens to be a time where it's not, you know, one of those moments. It's like, you know, like it's just who I was at the time, you know?
Yeah.
So, again, I support coming up to me and talking to me, dude. I really want to meet every single one of you who I've either impacted or if you have a story to share with me, I'd love to hear it, you know?
Yeah. Paintball is like such a unique sport, right? Because like if we look at, let's just say professional football or, you know, professional baseball, when a player warms up, they're warming up typically on the field that they're playing on, and the field is roped off, so fans can't get on it.
Yeah, but, Tom, make a warm-up section for pro players.
Exactly, seriously. Right?
That'd be great.
But for paintball, like how professional players warm up is they sometimes have to run through the venue and run through where the people are shopping. And it's just such a weird thing of like you're trying to get into the zone while fans are trying to stop you.
Dude, how cool would it be to just have a small, in the pits, right? Have like a small half field sized extension where it was a warm up section and then maybe even a netted section with like 2 bunkers and some targets. Yeah. Where you could really warm up. Like just like when you watch baseball and they're pitching, right? At the net, you know? And like have it in a spot where the fans can see it too, maybe, right? And they can watch their favorite pro players warm up. Think about World Cup, watching your favorite pro player warm up for the finals, watching them get in that zone, listening to music. Like that is hype, dude. Yes. Put that up, dude. Give us a warm up place.
Yeah, get out of my mind. Because so I moved to Texas from North Carolina, and like Charlotte, North Carolina is just known for disc golf, or like some people call it frisbee golf or frolf.
Yep, frolf, yeah.
And I really compare paintball to disc golf because we're right on almost the same level of like the boutiqueness of our sport. Like we're growing, but we're not quite there yet. And I've followed some of the pros when I was there, and it's the same thing. Like pros are mixing with the fans. But what they did in the past few years is that all of these courses on the national tour, they roped off a section where these pro players can walk into whatever this netted section is, have their headphones on, and they can practice putting all while fans are watching. And so like you literally watch the transformation of this person that walks through the crowd, goes into that go mode. You get to watch all of it. And then when they come out of that circle, now it's time for autographs and selfies. It's such a cool experience.
It's dope.
Yeah.
Do it.
Let's do it. Yeah. Let's do it,
dude. Give us a place to warm up and like run and shoot at some targets and snap some stuff and then like stretch with your team. Like,
yeah.
It's the one of the coolest things before a basketball game is watching the players warm up.
Yeah.
Right? Watching them shoot their shots and like, get in the zone and get stretched and whatever it is, dude. Like, and LeBron does his freaking thing.
Yeah.
Like, like you could start some really cool content,
Yeah. Cause then that also turn into like all these manufacturers like HK and whatnot. They could create practice jerseys for those and like
you can make
swag.
HK Army chalk that I could throw in the air.
Yeah. Oh, I could just, can you imagine seeing Mark doing that? Like he would just be going crazy with it.
That's what I'm saying, dude. Warm up with this chalk right now on hkarmy.com. Available in a 4-ounce and a 97-ounce tub.
Yeah.
Like,
when you hit it, it goes to the HK like a skull and crossbones as it fades up.
That's what I'm saying. We're giving too many ideas away. We need to just start doing
right. We got to keep this locked down.
So yeah, man. I think that would be cool. It'd be really cool for the sport.
I agree. Thanks for sharing that. I think it's we'll put this together and send it to Tom and the crew, and maybe we'll see something about it.
Yep.
Tell me what's on the roadmap for Ronnie, for your brand. Like, where do you see Dizon Docs going? Where do you see the Ronnie Dizon brand going? The gang?
Yeah, I mean, so right now I'm going to be working with. I got a few releases that I'm working on. I have a winter collection of merch that I need to release before winter ends. So I got some samples coming in, and the main goal for this year is to do more.
Yeah, I love it.
But specifically do more content. Like you saw, like if people follow me on Instagram, I was selling a bunch of my camera equipment, and people were like fuming. The vlog's ending. Even my coach Pat McKenna was like, the vlog's ending? Are you done? And I'm like, no, dude. I'm just trying to make some space. I have so much stuff, So I'm trying to go. I'm trying to minimalize things, and then just really go hard at putting out more content more often at the long form. I think short form's cool. I really do, but I love long form.
Same.
It's got a special place in my heart. Yeah. I think short form's dope if I was able to, because I've juggled with this. What would be nicer, long form vlogs or like daily reels? And I want to ask you that. What do you think would be more digestible? I think
I've always been a fan of the my sweet spot is like 8 to 15 minute vlogs, because that gives me something I can look forward to. I know that if I've got 10 or 15 minutes, I can digest it and then move on.
8 to 15. This is what Dan wants.
Yeah, thank you. I think Cyrus is now from Paintball Fit. He's in like the creator space, and I love it.
I love that guy. He's cool.
He's doing 45 minutes to an hour, I think, and I just don't have the time to sit to look at one creator, and it's hard to tell a story in that time. So I think for me, that 8 to 15 minute range, you can tell some type of story. You can end it on something where I'm looking forward to, what's going to be next. You're going to tease it.
Yeah.
It's kind of that Casey style, like you've got a hook, you've got your story, and how can I get you to come back to my show next week?
Yeah. Well, that's funny because I'm going to send you an unlisted link of the next Dizon Docs, which is really cool,
Yes.
And you're going to be like one of 2 people who've watched it.
Heck yeah.
And I'd love to get your insight because it's, I tried to document like more of like a week in the life, versus a day, because I think a day is cool, but it has to be an eventful day.
Sure.
Or if it isn't an eventful day, I guess it could be not that eventful, but I think it's cooler when it's an eventful day,
Sure.
It's back to what you said. It's like to be able to tell that story in that 15 to 20 minute range, I think is a great spot for a YouTube video. I love being able to put on a Nick Bear video, sit down and eat some food.
Yeah.
And I think there is a place for reels and short form, but my heart lies in the YouTube algorithm.
Yeah,
so
totally.
That's my goal. I want to do more on that channel. I have some exclusive stuff I'm coming out with in terms of merch. I'm working on another signature series with HK. And then a big one I'm doing is I do the barrel tips with DLX, and I have a really, really sick one coming out that I've been sitting with my designer for the past, I don't know, like week. And we were like, no this, no that, no this. And then we finalized it. And then I said, no, scrap the whole thing. I want this. And it's like, yeah, I'm really stoked because those are, that's your sword. You're going into battle with that, right?
Totally.
So I've had a lot of people, reach out for those. And I think it'd be cool to continue that. So just being more consistent with my content this year, while training and playing. So hopefully I could partner up with some people to help me with that,
Sure. Yeah. I mean, consistency, as you know, from being a professional athlete, like that's the bread of everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that just kind of helps fuel every other part of your life.
Yeah, I think last year I took a backseat on the content creation, and I went full bore into adjusting to this new hybrid athlete training protocol,
Mm-hmm.
And I think this year, and me having that break from paintball and everything, going to Asia and having a lot of time to reflect, I sat there and I go, I did take the backseat on the vlogs. I did get into this adaptation mode of training a lot. Now I'm going to find the good middle ground where I could be productive and attack on all aspects, because what would happen is I would work out that in the morning, and then it's like I'd do a little bit of editing, and then I'd be like, shit, I got that next second workout coming up. Then the second workout would happen, and now I'm just a shot. I don't want to do anything,
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, yeah, this is more important right now. And it was that unbalance, that season of life where you're unbalanced. And now it's like, okay, cool. I'm gonna find a way where I could maximize all of it,
Yeah.
And hopefully this year we can touch base later halfway through the year and see how things are going,
Yeah, totally. And that's what I love about, doing this specific podcast is like, I've got a ton of questions. Like I've got a Ronnie file where obviously I gave you some questions ahead of time, but I still have questions that like we haven't touched on that leaves room for you to come back and, share an update on those questions or ones that we've already talked about, because it's going to change.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing about doing this is, people get to learn about you. You and I get to build a deeper relationship and a friendship and keep creating content.
Dude, it's awesome, man.
Yeah.
It's awesome. This is great. What you're doing here is awesome. And I really hoped that, I was able to get on here and give some good insight, because I think that following up Matt and all these other people, like you got some awesome people that are coming on the show. And I think the quality and the execution is great. I think you're doing really good.
I appreciate that. It means a lot. It's definitely, I think I'm 12 episodes in and like, I still get nervous before everyone. And like, I, psych myself out and like, I just got to do it and like sit down. And then as soon as we start, it's like something switches. Yeah. Get into a flow state. It's crazy.
We're just hanging out, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have one more question for you. This is something I've done on all of my shows so far. There's another podcast that I love to watch, and he always ends his episodes with allowing the guest to ask a question for next week's guest without knowing who it is. And so I've got one for you. Okay. And so I had Verbal on last week, and he asked the question that he asked everybody all the time. You get to answer
PTG,
it, even in the PTG world.
All right, let's hear it.
So you get to rip it. So what is your favorite food, and what is your favorite place to eat it?
God, dude, every time I've heard this question on PTG, I'm like, I don't know how I would answer that. If you guys watch the Matt the Gym Rat vlog, you guys will know I'm a foodie. So I really like everything. I guess, dude, you're gonna have to give me a minute. You could cue the Jeopardy music, right?
No, so I'll actually fill in a little bit while you're thinking about it.
Okay.
So on the Matt the Gym Rat podcast that I had him on, he told a story about like how you were trying to jam pack so much into a weekend, and like he was leaving the next morning like an early flight, and you're like, hey, like let's go grab like cheeseburgers at like 9 a.m, and he was like, bro, I've got to like get on a flight. I don't want a hamburger in the morning.
Right. Yeah, I mean, dude, there's so many. Chicago is so untapped when it comes to the food. Like, there's so many places. Honestly, my favorite food as of right now, and this is gonna be corny, but it's a nice home cooked meal by my fiance on my couch.
Yeah.
There is nothing that beats that. And being with all the, we have 2 cats and a dog, like the barnyard we have here,
Yeah.
and Stella and us just having that time together. There is nothing that beats that. And there's nothing more wholesome than that, because man, there's so many awesome, flashy restaurants and everything's cool, but none of those restaurants will compare to something like that, and I'm the person who the foodie is the thing. So like, I guess like a typical meal that I would really love is like a nice, obviously, like I'm going to go into like, for like my carbohydrate portion,
Yeah.
it's like just a simple white rice or like a pasta,
Yeah.
and then I really like beef, ground beef, steak, so I guess like a nice like ground beef and rice bowl with some, some veggies. Nothing beats it, dude. And being in the company of my own home, it's irreplaceable,
Yeah. I love that. That's spot on. Like, right. Like food is incredible to have an experience, but when you can experience it with somebody that you truly love and care about, and the food's good, like you're winning on all fronts.
Dude, I mean, it's great, and then it makes me feel happy,
Yeah. I love that. Thanks for sharing. Well, now hard part's over. You get to ask next
This
week's
is the
guest a
hard
question.
part. No, that's the easy part. This is the hard part. Next week's guest, and I have no idea who the guest is, right?
No, yep. That's the cool thing about it.
Yeah. Okay. My question would be for this next guest on Dan's podcast. I would ask if you had, man, there's so many. I could go like, if you had $1 million, would you do this? Or I could go like more deep. I've typically, the question's been a little bit more all over, or they've been consistently deeper questions.
Yeah. Most of them have been like super deep.
Okay. I don't want to be that guy.
So Sal Chavez of BFP Gear and, Dynasty Media, he started the show, my very first one, and he went complete opposite. His was cereal super chowder, which just like breaks everybody's mind. Ryan Gray was, if you could have lunch with any deceased family member, who would it be and why? I think Matt was, if you had any superpower, what would it be and why? So, and I think it was either Alex Frazier or Ryan Greenspan was like, if you had, or what's like, what's something you just had to overcome recently? Like, what's a hard problem you've had to overcome? Alex Sorensen of Major League Paintball Media, he asked a great one. His was, if you had a goal for 2025 that was guaranteed to come true, what would it be? So there's been a lot of like pretty diverse, some paintball, some life, some silly ones. So you could literally go whatever you want.
Damn. My mind went inappropriate right there for a sec. I was like, I can't talk about stuff like that. Let's see here.
That's for the after show.
Yeah, right. Okay. I guess I'm gonna do, this is a pretty typical deep one, but if you could talk to yourself, as a youngin, like a young person who just say if it's a paintball player who just got into the sport, or like whatever career endeavor it is, maybe it's videography, photography. Ask that person or give them one piece of advice, along this road that you've seen, And I guess I don't want to make it a 2-part question, but also, would you change anything to lead you to the person you are now,
Yeah.
Right?
That's such a good question.
So it's like a double, like, it's like, what advice would you give them? But also, would you have changed anything, because I think the answer is like almost, because right now I'm grateful and happy where I am now,
Yeah.
But like, it's like, man, what if that, like, if I gave my friend that, or myself that advice, like, what if it changed the trajectory of my entire life and I was opposite of what I'm doing now, So
yeah.
I think that's how I would answer it, right? So it's like, I would tell myself to just stay on my path. But yeah, ask that question. I think that's a good one. It's always interesting to hear how people reflect and look at how their life has been, you know, because maybe they had some traumatic stuff and they're like, don't go to that night out. It's gonna ruin.
Don't go to the bar that night.
Yeah, that night it's gonna ruin everything, you know. So.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's actually something I do personally. Like I think back to like, man, what would I tell my, that kid, or what would I tell that person where I was in that part of my life? So that's I'm excited to see who's gonna answer that question.
I think it tells a lot. I think it tells a lot about that person and how they look at how their life has been.
Yeah.
Because if somebody says like, don't change a thing, just keep going.
Yeah.
Then it's like, okay, cool. Like they love the life that they live. Or maybe they're like, don't do this, change that. And maybe they have some stuff that they're like, shit, I didn't really like how that went.
Yeah. So, great question. See, take the pressure off. That was incredible.
Kind of deep though. I wanted a funny one, but it's okay.
This podcast is all about the deep stuff.
All right. Okay.
Good job.
I'll have a funny one next time prepared.
I love that. I'm going to take note of that. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Ronnie, this has been such a pleasure. I know you're obviously doing this full time, so thank you for taking time out for me away from your routine. It really means a lot. And I wish you nothing but the absolute best this year.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it. And thank you for having me on. And I appreciate what you're doing here, man. Keep doing it.
You know it. We got more planned in the hopper.
Let's go. Gang.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, everybody else, thank you for tuning in. And I'll see you next time on the Shellda Podcast.
Peace.